Welcome to the most forward-thinking, inspirational podcast in this reality. The show designed to challenge everything we've been taught. If you've ever felt there had to be more to life, more to existence, then you're listening to the right podcast. Time to open your mind and dive in. This is the Mental Mastery Alliance podcast.
And here we go.
Well, let's get right into a hot topic. I wanted to talk about this for a minute, and the ethos keeps circling around and bringing me back to this. I'm seeing things online. I'm having conversations with people. I'm embracing, I guess, kind of watching all this take place. And I find when these moments in time happen, i.e., I'm never 100% sure what I'm going to talk about on the show. It's funny to think, eh? All of the content that we put out, what's going to happen? What are we talking about next? What's going on today? I don't know. And sometimes, you can't force it. You can't put out crap. You can't just get on there and try to talk some shit about some shit. Because, I've done that before and I've recorded and I'm like, man, I just talked kind of haphazardly for about 20 minutes. But every time you sit down to record, you get an opportunity to sound a little bit better, be a little bit more concise, understand your craft a little bit better. It's one of the most beautiful and fun things that I've ever done. Growing into the podcasting network of things. Today is going to be a fun one for me. I get a lot of flack from groups of people. And this is a funny thing, right? So if you think about this, we live in a world where we have to wake up from what we're experiencing. But the only way for us to wake up from what we're experiencing is to first have had the opportunity to experience it. And the understanding and comprehension of everything that goes on around us is fascinating. It's more fascinating when you don't try to put any rules or regulations onto the experience, the very experience that you're having. And what do I mean? What do I mean by that? La 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 la. A little bit of a stutter there. Stuttering John. Whatever happened to him? I guess it's the context of the experience that we think that we're having or that we think that we're supposed to have. And then the pain that comes from not getting the thing that we think that we want to have happen. Because everything is inevitable anyway. Everything is exactly as it's going to be. So where does the pain come from? Not getting our way. Where does wanting to get our way come from? Manipulation. We're targeted. And a lot of us working through a lot of things, when you're firmly locked in the third dimension and you believe the government and you're fully vaccinated and you ask no questions. You ask no questions whatsoever. We all started here. And this is the craziest thing because we all started here. Every last one of us started off, sure, I'm going to get my vax, I'm going to get my boosters, whatever it is, I'm going here, I'm going there, I'm going to this country, I'm going to that country, I'm going to get vaccinated, it's all, whatever. We never even thought about it. But now with how they've done this COVID thing, you really do have to sort of question it. You have to question everything. And if you don't question everything, that's a bit peculiar. I should probably use this now because I'm going to get into some weird stuff.
In the news. Now.
That's so cool. It was the wrong button. But that was really cool.
Disclaimer. If you're going to soundbite any of this podcast, you must soundbite it in its entirety for consistency and context.
I'm getting to use my drops. One of these days, I'll have something that's in the news that I'll have to slap it properly. But yeah, sorry about that. I pressed the wrong button. Sorry, not sorry. So we all live in this world where we have to, and oh man, another funny thing too. I was setting up a podcast for a client, and it was done through Spotify/Anchor. And there's this myriad of things that you're not allowed to talk about on Anchor. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe that this list had to be a thing that it was. I thought to myself, like, whatever happened to hearing something and questioning it and doing some research and sort of looking around and thinking about it? Right? They say in their post, hey, we're Spotify. If you want to post on our shit, you can't talk about the possibility of anything because everyone's too stupid to do any additional research. They'll take everything that you say at face value and cause harm to this, that, and the other thing. It's such an illusion. Even that is the illusion. Right now, you got Joe Rogan on the Spotify. He talks about all kinds of shit. And I mean, he's up for debate to me as to sort of what that's all about. Now, I look at all this sort of stuff and I think to myself, you know, what is it that we're waking up from? Where are we going? What's society doing? Because it's never ending, right? It's never ending. So remember, we started this journey playing with the toys and the sandboxes, and then we were like 13 and 14 and 15. And then we found out about like the opposite sex. Like, oh God, look at everybody's fun now. And then you go through this awkward phase where you feel like you have to date people and like you base your value on who you're with. And then you base your value on what job you have and all this sort of stuff. And it's all just so superficial and third dimensional. And it's terrible and it's boring. And most of us end up depressed, filled with anxiety on some sort of medication, all because we did everything they told us to do. And if you're listening to the show, there's a high likelihood that you were depressed all the way through it and that you were constantly asking for something more. And every single time you found an answer, somebody told you were crazy. You're crazy. You can't think about that. You're not allowed. You're not allowed. You can't have these thoughts. What the? Why? You know, why is it always a fight? Oh, man, I can go off on a tangent with that too. But what's happening? Look at what's happening right now. You ask yourself these questions. You ask yourself any question. That you're asking the question separates you from the herd. Once you're separated from the herd, you're visible. It's so weird. It's so weird, the world that we're living in. But it's only weird based on the world that we think, or the world that I think that we're supposed to be living in. I don't even know what we're doing, man. I don't know what we're doing here. You know, for the longest time, it's like, make sure you've got enough money to do this and become that. You start earning money, you start earning tons of cash, like, fuck, I've done it. You know, what else is there? What else am I doing? Like, I'm not going to die. I'm not going to starve. I don't have all the money in the world. I'm not trying to be MTV Cribs. Like, fuck, we grow out of that shit, you know? You got to have these experiences, yet we live in fear. We live in scarcity. I look at all of the stuff that they've talked about, all of the things that they've said with regards to the vaccines and all that sort of stuff, and you look at that, and it's punched holes in every single vaccine story that's ever taken place. It also brings up things like the Tuskegee experiment. What? I mean, obviously a lot of us knew about that, but if you don't know about it, take a look. The Tuskegee experiment. For them to say, well, with your government has your best interest at heart. Where the fuck did I get syphilis from then? Fuck. But only if you're black. That was for black men. Isn't that peculiar? They divide, they conquer. They make us believe that it's you versus me. It's wealth versus poor. It's female versus male. Black versus white. Geolocation versus geolocation. Division. Left versus right. Red versus blue. Up versus down. It's unreal. It's unreal. And what do? We fight each other. But how much do we have to fight each other? Until we realize that it's not us that needs to be fighting. Now here comes the interesting part of this podcast. 10 minutes in. You get to a certain point in the game, in the hunt, in the conspiracy theory, and you realize that every single thing that you've ever been told and every single thing that you were ever laughed at and or mocked for thinking is literally coming true. We've got the new G20 Vax Pass being pumped through. There's questions about that. It's brand new. But what do you see? You see fear. So this is where I find myself under attack a lot of the time. Because I'm not going to stand here and pump out fear-mongering about the Vax Pass G20. It's shit that we already talked about. It's new. It's stuff that we knew. It is a creation, perhaps, of our own doing. By promoting it and talking about it, we created it. Is that a thing? How is it that we could know about this stuff? Like, individually, do I have any idea? No, I fucking saw some information somewhere that made me ask questions about something at some point. Like, if you haven't seen the Dave Chappelle monologue from a couple days ago, I say a couple days ago now, but to anybody listening to it, this would be November-ish, November 2022. Early November, mid-November. I don't know when he went live. Mid-November 2022, to anyone listening to this show in the future. And if you're listening in the future, hello from the past. That monologue was nuts, and they talk about a lot of stuff. And are we supposed to think and say and do and all these things that could possibly be a thing? Well, if you talk about it to some people, they'll tell you you're crazy and that you shouldn't say these things and you shouldn't talk about these things. And Dave Chappelle even goes into this sort of stuff. But if you say, well, how can you say all these things about those things and then quote Dave Chappelle as if he's some sort of reliable source? You see what happens there is people want to fight you right out the gate. Nobody wants to listen. They want to fight. I'm going to fight you. I need you to know that I'm right and that my ability to deduce far supersedes your deductions. Why are we fighting? Because even that is what we've been told to do. We have been told to fight each other for superiority. I'm better than you. No, it's not the way it is. Geez, I almost sound like Bane from Batman there, right? Pulling these voices out of nowhere. I'm tired. It's been a long day. I have a lot of client work. We have been swamped. I look at the end of the day too, and I'm like, fuck, I haven't gotten anything done for myself. And, I kind of feel bad about it. Like it's like 9:30 or whatever Eastern Standard Time now, and I'm finally getting this podcast done after like 3 days of wanting to do it. But I love all my clients. I love the work that we do, so it's still a lot of fun. It's just at the end of the day, you look at the checklist, you're like, well, I got everything done for everybody else, but I didn't do anything for myself. And you just start doing stuff for yourself because time is a construct. Back to the matter at hand, ladies and gentlemen. I want to talk about red pilling. Do you remember the first time you were red pilled? And for those that don't know, honestly, you know what it is. But for those that don't know, let me read you the Urban Dictionary. Red pill. To open someone's eyes and minds to the secrets, truths of something important. It is a reference to the film The Matrix, in which Neo takes a red pill to learn the ugly truth about his existence. And that's red pilling. You red pill somebody, you're like, hey man, check this out. Shit that you got to see. So we go around red pilling everybody, right? But who red pilled us? How do we find this stuff out? And why do we think that we're superior for having this knowledge? I don't know, but we do. And why does it matter that, the world's out to get us? Why can't we just turn off the TV and not give a shit? Well, technically you can. And it does go away when you do that. But then people will say, well, it doesn't go away because what if I want to fly to... Man, all the shit that we don't know. Honestly, the shit that we don't know. Like the wars going on around the world, we don't know anything about. I've got friends in Iran right now having serious trouble. And not a single peep about it anywhere, so nobody's even informed about it. But what do we know? Oh, God, there's problems in Ukraine. Funnel money to them. Don't worry about the fact that our systems don't have any cash and I think Flint doesn't even have drinking water still. It's just money after hand. It's just propaganda, constant propaganda. Ghislaine Maxwell. Nobody decided to worry about who she was trafficking her kids to? No. It doesn't matter. It's bullshit. Right? In the eyes of these people, they're going to tell their story. They're going to say their thing. They're going to do a little dance. And then it's bullshit. We don't have the full story. Again, the G20 Vax Pass, madness. Inflation. It's going to crush everybody, right? But they also have to destroy the fiat currency because it's an illusion, right? That illusion is crumbling in front of us. This is the beginning. Well, what happened? FTX rolls around. Fear. Right? And am I supposed to jump on every single one of these bandwagons? Are you supposed to jump on them? Are we supposed to fucking promote this crap to everybody left, right, and center about absolutely everything? Come on. This is the shit that keeps us living in fear. We're surrounded by it. We're force-fed this shit. If they were doing nefarious things that they didn't want us to know about or do, none of that shit, we wouldn't know. Because we've witnessed them remove people completely from the spotlight. No problem whatsoever. All we can really get aggravated about or angry about is the shit that we find out about. And that shit's intentional. It's intentional. Kanye West. Oh, hey. Here's a good time for that.
In the news. Now.
Every time. Kanye West. Kanye West got his sneaker deal revoked. He lost billions of dollars, or $1 billion, or whatever it is. He's in the news, but because they want him to be. They want just like Alex Jones was in the news. He owes $1 billion to the Sandy Hook people because they don't want you talking or having an opinion or thinking about this stuff, so they put you in fear. So they make you aware of what you can know and not know. And then you have to ask yourself, again, you go deeper and deeper and deeper. Like, who are they? Who are the they that we keep referring to? I don't know. But you know what comes after the red pill? What we just led into right now. The red pill. Once you go past a red pill, once you've been red pilled, you essentially end up black pilled. And a black pill, now by their definition here, a black pilled person is an extremist. He's doing air quotes with his fingers. An extremist, arriving at the realization that their government is completely tyrannical and attempting to kill its people, is said to be black pilled. Well, doesn't it sure look like that? Killed or corralled or fandangled. Why is it the government that's going to put us into these vax passes, that's going to check where we've been going? Man, at what point do we absolutely just tell ourselves that we're prisoners and we can only do what they tell us and what they allow us to do? At what point do we say, these people don't know any fucking more than us? At what point do we stand up and start doing something about it? Well, what comes next is a white pill. And a white pill to me is the most fascinating pill in the entire world. And this is why I get in trouble. Because the people who are red pilled and the people who are black pilled are freaking out about all of this shit. Because when you say to yourself, you know, I'm enlightened, I'm elevated, I'm slipping into the third dimension, fourth dimension, I'm slipping into the fifth dimension, I'm understanding and comprehending what's going on around me. I'm far too wise. You're too smart for your own good. But you're not. You've fallen directly into the trap that keeps you living in fear, in scarcity. The trap that keeps you not moving. The trap that says, what's it all for? Why am I doing all this stuff? You lose your momentum. You lose your mojo. And you go back on the attack. And what happens to you? You cycle through it. You get lost in the news feeds. In the news. You get lost. And you don't focus on you. You don't focus on elevation. You don't focus on stepping your game up. Because you're so busy tied into the third dimension. But I'll tell you this, it's that third dimension that keeps you pushing. It's being locked down. It's being pushed down. It's being fucking stretched as thin as you possibly can with the understanding and the comprehension and the awareness of all these horrible, crazy, terrible things going on all around us. The inevitable, absolute collapse of fiat. What's going on with FTX is a direct, it will be in the future generations will look back at this and say, what the hell? But when you look at who's involved in FTX and when you look at what's tied into all of this sort of stuff, two things happen. First off, it's mind-blowing. Second off, they want you to be aware of it, because if they didn't, if they fucked up that bad and they were like, we can't let anybody know about this, well, they wouldn't. We'd hear more fun stories about what the old Joe Biden's doing. We'd witness the old Donald Trump rile people up with the old QAnon and the old this, that, and the other thing. You know, we'd see all this sort of stuff, and they would start pushing this other shit out there, which they already are kind of doing. And when you see that stuff, you know they're burying something else. Ladies and gentlemen, what comes after you've been red-pilled and you start to see things? And then you've been white-pilled. Then you've been black-pilled. And you believe that there's no way out. Well, here's what comes next. And a lot of you haven't hit this spot yet. But it's really cool when you do. And the reason I'm recording this now, after a long day and after a lot of stress, well, I wouldn't say any stress, but it was kind of stressful because things that should work that didn't work, the new programs, that's weird. I was interjected with just a simple meme. And I saw this and I said to myself, no, I've got to get this done. I've got to get this out. I need to speak on this. And let me just pull that meme up right now. I'm going to pull up the meme once I can figure out where the buttons are on all this sort of stuff. And there's another thing too. I don't really do any editing for sound. So right now you're hearing my voice because I just don't want dead air. Even though I could leave dead air out there and just edit it out. But like then you have to go hunting for the dead air, you know? So it's just weird. So I'll just tell you this story about dead air while I'm pulling up the meme, which I've just done. Perfect. This meme relit the fire into my ass to get this podcast out because this podcast is something that's been on my mind. It's something that had to come out. I've been thinking about this for a while. Once humanity begins to understand who they really are and what this really is, there will be no stopping them. And somebody wrote that. And somebody who wasn't us wrote that simply by the verbiage. Once humanity understands who they really are, there will be no stopping them. That's pretty cool because we were talking about the them earlier and they refer to us as the them as well. So is there a true division? Oh, maybe. Why do the powers that be like, do you really think that our own systems would inhibit us the way that systems are inhibiting us right now? Every single thing that you could ever possibly want to do, you need permission to do. And you don't think we live in a prison planet? All of your actual natural human rights have been stolen from you and sold back to you by your government. It's absolute madness. So what happens, ladies and gentlemen? Well, you get white-pilled. And white-pilled is fascinating. White-pilled is understanding, is comprehension, certain things. This is why I get flack, because all the people that are red-pilled and black-pilled want to attack me for not taking a stand on anything. And I assure you, I went from being an ignorant, arrogant, third-dimensional, drunk drug addict who did everything he was told to do, made all the money and did all the shit, and was a giant piece of shit to everybody, and was totally miserable, and every ounce of my insecurity radiated in toxic masculinity because I was a coward. That man started asking questions because there had to be more to life than this. 10, 15 years later, here we are. But I was that piece of shit. And I was living that life. And I was having those experiences. And unfortunately, I was sharing those experiences. But when you look back on it, you realize that anyone that you may have triggered in the past fired them into something else. And everything that you ever did or was done to you, even back then, you're oblivious to it. You're oblivious to the things that are done to you simply because you're like, why are these terrible things happening to me? And you don't even know what you're doing outwardly. We grow. Man, think about the shit that you hear too. A leopard can't change its spots. Once a cheater, always a cheater. Whatever the hell it is. Right? All this dumb shit that you just believe just blindly over and over again without realizing that the whole purpose of everything that we're doing is to become better versions of ourselves. Now, bring on the white pill. This is the moment or series of events, by the way, I'm reading from the urbandictionary.com. The white pilled page from the urbandictionary.com. The moment or series of events by which a person abandons despair and surrenders to the inevitability of hope. Not out of sheer optimism, but from facing difficulty and nihilism head on through the use of reason and inquiry. It is the final destination of those who are red-pilled and or black-pilled. And tends to happen when a person becomes cynical of cynicism. Boom! I added the boom. And skeptical of skepticism. It is named after the white-hot fire of hope in a pill form and is medicine for the soul. And it's so true. When you decide to white pill yourself, it's the truth. Like, you're just like, I'm fucking... What it really boils down to is that every last ounce of everything that's ever taken place here has happened to get me, the observer, to this spot right now. And as I sit here, it sounds like I'm telling you a story. But the truth is, I'm expelling a story. And in doing so, hearing it again through my own ears. I'm benefiting myself. I'm the only thing that's in existence right now. I sit in front of a microphone with some notes. and an idea of a thing that I wanted to talk about. And this is the thing that comes out. This is the story that I tell. And I need to tell this story. Just as much as anyone that's listening needs to listen to this story. I need to tell it. I need it to come out of me. The comprehension that comes from you being able to speak the things that you need to speak. And I say you, and you're listening, and you're like, he's talking about me. But theoretically, I'm talking to me. Because it's just me. As I sit here, it's always been just me. I just sit here. I just sit here and tell stories, and I'm talking to myself. And that's the coolest thing that people miss. So when you go through the despair of all of it, of becoming aware, the painful part of becoming aware is the battle that you do within yourself, the battle that you fight yourself with. Like, you think that you're supposed to prove a point to somebody somewhere about something. And the more you have these conversations and discussions, the more you realize that people they're not listening to your point for the most part. They're waiting for you to stop talking so that they can interject with their point. And when you rise above that, you realize that there's really not much that you need to say to them. And everything that you need to say for you. And everything that you observe, you start to realize that you're observing for you. What am I going to do about it? Who knows? Am I going to worry about it? Absolutely not. What happens in the next 5 minutes? The same thing that was always going to happen. Can you prepare for the future? Sure. Prepare for the collapse of fiat, but that's your journey. That's your life. Right? Don't panic about the collapse. Right? Figure out what you got to do. Get yourself some gold, get yourself a bit of land, get yourself some property, get yourself some tangibles. And I mean tangibles, like a pair of Jordans. A nice car, a classic car. Because absolutely everything anywhere at any point can be taken from you for any state. So don't hold any attachment to any of this shit. But don't worry about it. Wake up in the morning, operate with fire and integrity, and love what you're doing. And if you're burnt out and bummed out, fuck man, go to the gym. People don't get that. People want to mock that. People that don't go to the gym don't understand that. Go to the gym. Your whole purpose and intention with all this sort of stuff is to sort of see it, bring it in, understand it, comprehend it, work on it for you. The arguments that you have with other people while you're trying to red pill them is really you just more so trying to understand it better yourself. You do enough red pills, you end up with a black pill. You just like, all of it. It's all terrible. It's all shit. They're all out to get. There's no winning this battle, right? And then the white pill rolls around. And then you're like, well, if there's no winning this battle, what was the purpose of this? Doesn't make any sense. There's so much more out there. There's so much more that can come of all of this. There's so much more beauty that's waiting to be seen. And the only way we're going to get there is literally through hell. It's through hell. So we pay attention to the things, and the real hell comes from the fact that we no longer have the thing that we think that we wanted. Because we look at the news, and we look at this, and we look at the fear, and the this and the that, and everything like that. But absolutely everything that takes place right now is an opportunity for us to step up and to become better versions of ourselves. Everything that's going on right now. And to anyone that wants to argue that, go right ahead. Hell, if you don't like any of that stuff, call into the show. 647-338-1265. Leave a voicemail. Send a text message. Long distance charges may apply. Have your voice heard. I don't know. I think that what we're doing right now is an amazing thing. This red pill, black pill, white pill business, when you start sort of traversing through these things, you realize that certain things will come up. So that's why I'm going to get a lot of flack. That's why I've been getting a lot of flack. Because I challenge what people want to be afraid of. And believe it or not, a lot of people don't like that. You're going to fucking poke fun at my fears? How dare you? Ladies and gentlemen, I've got a ton to say and a ton to do. We're doing a lot of crazy stuff going on right now. So head over to the mentalmasteryalliance.com. Check us out. If you have any interest in coaching, it's in our programs, or coachingwithtmma.com. I'm going to be on a tangent on this sort of stuff on mental thought, mental liberation, more and more and more. This is the fundamental basis of what this show was supposed to be. curing you of anxiety and depression without meds, which seemed crazy when we started a few years ago, but now it's like, fuck, the meds are the things that are screwing us up. And so much new information is coming to light. So much new stuff is happening. I'm very excited for the future. It's going to be crazy. And if I lose listeners, well, so be it. But I don't think I will, because I have a feeling that you guys are just as interested in this stuff as I am. You have to be. Why would my alignment steer me so wrong when I feel so centered for the first time in such a long time? It's a beautiful life. It's a beautiful world. And look at that. I talked for the first time over half an hour. Sorry to take up so much of your time, guys, but I'm glad you stuck with me. And again, in the infamous words of Red Green, keep your stick on the ice.
We really hope you enjoyed this episode of the Mental Mastery Alliance podcast. Stay connected with us directly through the mentalmasteryalliance.com. You can also join the discussion on Instagram at instagram.com/the Mental Mastery Alliance. Let the team know you're listening by using the hashtag TMMA or tagging us at the Mental Mastery Alliance. To have your voice heard on the show, leave a voicemail or send a text to 647-338-1265. Long-distance charges may apply. If you love us, leave us a review. If you hate us, you spend your time in weird ways, but also leave a review. Every review on iTunes tickles the algorithm, helping us grow. Until next time, unity over division. This concludes the most surreal portion of your day.
You got it, Pontiac.